So we have some new faces in here this morning. I'll call this council meeting to order, and it is 10:38. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest?
And I recorded.
You've recorded it? What item is it?
9C.
9C for Kathy. Okay. Okay, so Eric Dean is scheduled to be here at 11. So we'll move on to staff awards. I've got a pair of them here. Get the right one first. Kim, come on up under the dome.
What's that for sign by sign?
I know.
Kim has now been with us for 5 years.
Is it?
5 years. Wow.
Doesn't seem like it, yes.
Yeah, it moves along pretty quick. Anyways, congratulations on achieving 5 years. You hold it. Thank you very much. I know the building department gets questioned an awful lot. Certainly glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again. Another 5 years, okay?
Hopefully.
I'll walk with you.
But yeah. Probably gonna poke me in the back. And this young lady has been with us for 10 years.
Yeah.
You haven't changed a bit.
Okay.
And please don't.
I will never, I
But,
promise.
wow, 10 years. I can still remember when Kaylee arrived on scene here back in 98, I think it was. And I remember when you came on board. Actually, I remember when a lot of people came on board.
But I'm
I
Jessica.
will still see you from time to time. Yeah, okay. Me too. We have to get real close.
That's one whole spoon.
So if you're doing this, personally signed it, okay?
I personally printed it.
And apparently there's something in there for you also. You're really welcome. Good. Thank you. It's a girl thing.
Show me before you post it.
So speaking of staff, we have a new staff member has joined us. Tammy Martin is our new HR person. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And hopefully a mayor in 5 years will give you a certificate too. And I understand today's a special day for Jennifer. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, how old are you?
49.
Ah,
Yeah.
I knew that. I knew
Yeah,
that.
I see that on here, 29.
49.
29. So, we're still not at 11, so adoption of the consent. Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Kay. Be it resolved that Council adopts the consent agenda of November 12, 2018 as either amended or circulated. Are there any suggestions for amendment? Councillor Kay?
I'd like to bring item F forward for recommendations.
So 5F. Need a pen? That'll end up under 11D.
There's another one too.
Oh,
Can you pull 5H, which is the outstanding action item? In there, there's a number of district actions, and that should be added to 11C. And I wouldn't mind seeing all the district actions under one resolution, so the new mayor and council can follow all the district actions that have not been completed as to date, which is getting a very long list. This one again?
Any other amendments? Okay, so has everybody got those? We'll remove 5F and add under 11D, under new business, and remove 5H and put it under 11C. As far as all these items go, it's not like I've been slouching.
No.
I've been going crazy trying to get them done, but anyways, we'll come to it.
I thought if that, we could take a break at lunch hour or whatever, if the resolution for 11C can be extended to include all the outstanding resolutions from 5H, what might make a complete resolution.
Yeah, either or we already have a resolution here for it, so.
Yeah, but we should have all the
Yep.
district issues under one resolution, so it's got to be expanded.
Okay, so any other amendments to the consent agenda? None? Call the question. All those in favor? Carries. And so far, the amendments are add 11D, district large item pickup report, and add outstanding action items to 11C. Any other suggestions for amendment? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Carries. So, communications from mayor and council. Who wants to start? Paul?
Very busy month, even though we had an election. There was quite a few things that were going on besides the campaign itself. On October the 11th, I attended the SSCA executive meeting. And then on October the 13th, I attended the Baxter Snow Riders Barbecue at their facilities over here on Violet Drive. On October the 13th, the same day, I attended the Gloucester Pool annual fall dinner, and that was well attended. And continuing on, October the 18th, I attended the SSEA board meeting. So there was 2 meetings that one week. And then on the following day, on the 19th, I attended the Muskoka Watershed Council executive meeting up at Bracebridge. The following day, on Saturday, we held a Eurasian milfoil workshop, which we had a full house of 50 people from Gloucester Pool, 6 Mile, and possibly other lakes, talking about how individuals and groups can tackle the Eurasian milfoil issues on their own lake. On November the 1st, I attended the Segbay AGM, and I guess somewhat of a Christmas party over at Seven Falls. And then the following day, on November the 2nd, I attended the Township Planning Committee, which was a 4-hour meeting. And that's it.
Sure. Councillor Cooper?
Yeah, I would agree. Sorry, I would agree. It was a busy month. A lot of driving up here to put signs in the ground over and over again. A lot of winds, a lot of heavy winds. Anyway, that certainly took up a good deal of my time, as well as visiting with constituents. In addition, attended all regular meetings that are required of me, both locally and district-wide, including the council composition meeting at the district, which I think is a sort of interesting group, and I don't know that much will change at the district in terms of composition, but you can rest assured that I'm there to push for better representation for the Township of Georgian Bay and a more even consideration of the makeup of our township, that being there's still, even in the district of Muskoka, close to 60% of the residents are seasonal, and yet at the moment there's 1 seasonal resident sitting on the district council. So that's pretty remarkable, not exactly rep by pop. So there we go, that's the district activities. There have been a few other activities, attending meetings with the Georgian Bay Land Trust as a volunteer steward these days, and a few other sort of community meetings, but I think that's my report for now, and thank you.
Thank you. Kathy?
Okay, I just basically have something that I wrote, just 1 page. Okay, great things happened in Honey Harbor over the last 4 years. Although the Catholic school closed, the public school stayed open and moved to new premises. And just recently it was announced that the Trillium Lakelands District School Board has purchased the old OLM school, providing a permanent home for the public school. Additionally, plans are being crafted to create a community hub at the school, where the library potentially moving there from its present location. If that happens, the old library premises could be leased to a new tenant, all positives for the harbor. The landscape along the Delawana Road has changed. The road itself has been turned into a walking path. New park benches, planters, and seating is now installed. Hopefully next year we'll see docks added to the parkette area. There are still lots of things to be finished in the harbor, like the revitalization of the public launch, speed reduction in the hamlet, the walkway to South Bay Road, all of which are in the works and can be easily accomplished next term. I'd like to thank township staff for putting up with me and taking the time to explain things. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm not finished. Few things. I attended a number of different functions, and Paul's mentioned most of them that he attended. Holiday train, November 30th at 2:50 p.m. in MacTier. And apparently, what's her name? Terry Clark? Jennifer likes Terry Clark. So do I. She is one of the performers this year, so that should be a lot of fun. I met with Bruce at the MacTier Legion in regards to the cenotaph, and we had passed a resolution last meeting. I've given them some ideas. They're going to look at fundraising a new cenotaph rather than repairing. Seems to be their gist from the Legion, and they're looking at somewhere between $27,000 and $30,000 that they'll need for that. Having attended the Remembrance Day ceremony yesterday, the current cenotaph is looking really sad, even worse than last year. The weather is getting into it and starting to split the mortar out and so on. So hopefully it remains safe enough to use until they get a new one up there. Council composition, Councillor Cooper mentioned that. I think I'd hold on to your hat and wait and see what our Doug Ford does in regards to reducing the number of councillors in Ontario. I heard a figure of something like 6,000 and some odd councillors in Ontario doing municipal business. Maybe it's light, maybe it's not. My position is that there's way too many politicians around. I'm also working with Bruce Stanton in regards to the closure of Road 5 across the dam to Port Severn South. We're trying to work with Trent Severn to get some sort of permission to either put a walking ATV snowmobile path across the coffer dam that's going to go in, or another idea is a floating bridge similar to what the snowmobile club uses up in Port Carling. The businesses are definitely going to suffer. I've read a number of letters from Trent Severn. One says it's going to open up shortly. Another one says no, it's going to stay closed. Another one says it's going to be 3 years. And I don't know which one to believe, so Bruce and I will be talking with Trent Severn to see if we can't come up with something to keep the businesses running and at least people that are on foot or on the vehicles that can't use the 400 highway to gain access, because that is the main C trail for the snowmobile club. There are ways around, long ways around though, and it still involves a water crossing. And that's pretty much it. To our CAO.
Your Worship, just to add to the holiday train at 2 o'clock on the same day, the mural is being unveiled, and it's been very, very popular. It's going to be a really cool feature.
It's quite the video that they put on the Township Facebook page.
Very
Those
exciting.
people are just going like the Dickens. I never seen people go up and down ladders so fast. Okay, so staff reports. Oh, it was 11 o'clock? And I see Eric is here, so let's do that. Do you have a check or a couple of checks there, Jennifer?
Yes, Your Worship.
Keep getting displaced.
Have a seat. So we ended up with a grand total of $27,281.88, which makes it very easy to divide in two. So that's $13,640.94 for each of the pieces. Wow. I had heard 24,000. Where'd we come up with the extra 3?
On the wheel of wow, I think, right? The wheel of. You ready?
Can we Facebook that right away? See how many likes we get?
Sure.
Anyways, thank you very much. You guys do a fantastic job. People have had to go down and use the facilities and they just love it.
Can I indulge you with council and judgment with a little bit of an update on?
Sure, come on up, have a seat, turn the mic on. And,
Yeah.
so you can have your chair. You can help them with the, right.
Nice job. Thanks, Mayor Larry and council. I just wanted to give you a little update on what's going on at RVH and how it's affecting residents in your area. Because it's the reason for the golf proceeds coming our way for a while have really been the regional programs. You started out helping us with radio for cardiology through Doc and Kicks, and it's really been a phenomenal program. And Larry's been part of the work of District of Muskoka Council as well, which supported the Cancer Center at RVH. So over the last 10 years, really, we've really focused on regional programs, and the regional cardiology and the regional child and youth mental health both came online within the last year. And what I thought you might be interested in is just a couple of stats around exactly how that's helping. As you know, healthcare is a provincial jurisdiction and provincial priority for funding for the operations. But bringing these regional programs on board can't happen without a lot of support from residents and from municipalities. And District of Muskoka, the townships, and County of Simcoe have all been really big players, as well as the City of Barrie, in making these programs come to life. So what you might not be aware of, and this really only reflects permanent residents, because when patients come into the hospital, the tracking that gets caught for their residency is just their health card number or their billing address. So the only ones that we are able to track are the folks who are permanent residents. And we may have lots of cottagers and seasonal residents coming through RVH, but they'd be coming through on their home address. So for your own, just from your own residents though, last year, 488 unique patients, so not visits, but unique patients from Georgian Bay Township came through. So really 1 in 5 of your residents came through the doors just last year, which would be about half of your households represented as a patient. And 1,700 patient visits came through from Georgian Bay Township residents. So about 5 people a day are making the trek down to 400 and coming through RVH. And I think that's a pretty impressive number when you think of just what kind of impact that's having. And of those 488 patients, 74 are cancer patients, people who are coming through the doors of the regional cancer program and being treated. So about 2 per day are making the trek down to RVH. You know that story. What's really interesting for me, though, and what I wanted to report back, is that these are the new programs, the cardiology program and the child and youth mental health. They've only been open for months now. The child and youth mental health inpatient program opened last December. The interventional cardiology program opened in January and just started doing full angioplasty in September. But already, even within the child and youth mental health program, 2 of your residents have been inpatients. So again, and out of the small youth population you've got in Georgian Bay, that program is already being utilized. And 3 have come through the urgent consult clinic as well. And even within cardiology, you've had 4 residents have had procedures in that brand new interventional cardiology unit, and 8 have been through for consults in urgent cardiology, which means they may have arrived at with a heart event somewhere in the region in an emergency department and been referred directly to RVH for a specialist cardiology consult. So it's, I think it's nice to know that it's paying off. And the residents are receiving better care, closer to home, and direct access to programs that we didn't have such a short time ago. We know that if your kids had required that inpatient program just a year ago, they'd have been going into Toronto at best, possibly into Ottawa, wherever we could find a bed. So thanks so much for making those programs available, for helping your residents, and helping everyone across the region.
Well, thank you, Eric. A couple of questions and some comments. Was very happy to do that sort of thing, and I'm hoping our new council will continue on with a mayor's golf tournament in a similar method. Our new mayor elect is in the corner there, Peter Kutsier, and one of the new councillors, Al Hazelton, is at the back there, the tallest fella. So you talked about 10 years up at district. I was sitting on district council when RVH came and asked for money for the cancer care center, and I was very skeptical of stepping with property taxes into a provincially or supposedly provincially funded initiative. But as always, I went out to the public, and I roamed around to a variety of different areas, and I could not find anyone that had not been touched by cancer in some shape or form. They've either had it, a family member, a friend, a neighbor, or they've driven people down to Princess Margaret or up to Sudbury, as was the case for people that I talked to up in MacTier. So at that point I had a change of heart, and you got my hand up supporting the $3 million. And of course, every year when that came up for budget discussions, it was kind of this way, but we were able to support it all the way through the 10 years. So, and I guess that's finished this year. Hopefully you've received the check for 300 grand at this point.
Yes,
oh, good.
so the District of Muskoka's contribution is complete, and there's one payment left on the cardiac gift from the district as well.
Right, okay. So at least I won't have to add that one to my long list of things that I haven't gotten done up at district yet. So anyways, certainly appreciate what you do. It would be nice if you could track seasonal residents. Like if they're not from the immediate area with their home address, is there a way of asking them, you know, are you a cottager at such and such? Because those numbers would be very interesting. Because I know for a fact that cottagers are using RVH. And I have talked to people that normally live in Toronto and they go to Princess Margaret for their treatments. Well, they started going here in the summertime, which was a huge benefit to them. It saved them that awful trek down 400 highway, which always seems to have a traffic jam or accident or something. So anyways, if you can figure that out.
We'd love to. We haven't figured one out yet.
Well, maybe it's just an extra line on the form. Anyways, I'm sure you can work on that now that we've made the suggestion. And Councillor Cooper?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo that, getting those statistics, given, and you weren't here when we were talking a little bit earlier, but pretty close to 60% of the population in the district of Muskoka is seasonal in nature, and 88, 87%, something like that in the Township of Georgian Bay. So it'd be great to see if you can capture that, and if you do have an online intake, I would assume you do at your hospital. You know, it really is just an extra check mark or a box or something is one suggestion. The other question I had for you though is so more recently RVH has opened a cardiac department. It's my understanding that sort of north of Highway 401, cardiac patients were being sent to centers of excellence, I guess they're called, or something like that, and I think RVH is one of them. And on the cardiology side, I sort of, if you were from this area, you either went north to Sudbury or down to South Lake, is my understanding. So how have you, in your new department, how would that impact South Lake in terms of intake, and how do you spread the work out, or is there just so much work that in terms of cardiology that your additional department is not necessarily taking business away, if you could describe it that way, from South Lake?
It's a great question, and it's an interesting program because it's actually an integrated cardiology program between South Lake and RVH. So South Lake has a degree of specialization that goes beyond what we will ever do. They do the open heart surgery, the full bypasses, they do electrophysiology. So what's kind of nice from a taxpayer's perspective is that degree of integration. So we will divert work from South Lake, but we're diverting work that really shouldn't have been going there because it's outside of a safe distance. So if you lived in Barrie, you were still within a safe distance to get to South Lake in the case of a heart attack, and be able to go in directly to their catheterization labs and in for surgery within the sort of the 90-minute window. Any further north than Barrie, and you're outside of that safe zone. So what we've done really with this new program is increase that safe zone for being able to get to a cardiac intervention unit within 90 minutes. That will eventually get us almost out to Huntsville. So it gets us certainly well within distance for your residents and for your summer residents as well. So what we will be doing is, and we aren't yet at a full 24/7 ambulance bypass. It'll be another 2 years before we've done enough cases to gain the competencies to be doing emergency angioplasty for ambulance bypass. But that's what it'll be cutting off. It means people who are having a heart attack or requiring angioplasty will be able to get it at RVH. And within about 2 years, we'll also be doing pacemaker insertions and some of the electrophysiology, but not to the same degree as South Lake. So we still end up with that center of excellence, which is that second stage opportunity for our residents. But we'll be able to save a lot of lives and improve a lot of heart muscle by having the intervention that much closer.
But if I just may, just briefly, so that's for me, very comforting, given that I live about 10 minutes from South Lake in the winter months, and in the summer months I feel thrilled that this facility is there because I'm out on Georgian Bay and I'd be heading your way, so thank you very much.
Anyone else?
All right, I did bring a little token for Larry, since the main thing my staff wanted to do was they apparently had seen Larry play, so they
That's because I've been too busy.
They would have sent a couple of branded golf balls your way.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Larry.
I'll take them to Oak Bay and promptly lose them into the rough.
Thank you all.
And it's funny, before I ever got on council, I had several buildings that either I owned or my family owned that I looked after. I had a business in Cambridge that I ran. I ran into Toronto 2 or 3 times a week, and I still got to golf 2 and 3 times a week. And then when I moved up here and got on council, I golf maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And that's why my game has gone south.
That's a good excuse anyway.
Sounds like
Yeah.
a good excuse,
Yeah.
but no more excuses, right?
No. I've got them all shined up for next year.
Gotta look good for the cameras.
Are you trying to sneak out or something?
I like that one.
Thanks again, Eric. So, we will move on to 9A, Clerk's Report, Election Wrap-Up. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not sure if you wanted me to give you highlights of the report or if you've read it and you just have questions about it. Anyone?
Anybody want to hear the highlights? Sure. Go for it.
It's like reliving it all over again. So the highlights in this report just include the fact that Council appointed a sort of an ad hoc committee in 2016 with Bob Duncanson, Councillor Cooper, the CAO, and myself, when we discussed methods on how to get more residents educated and involved in the election process with the goal of increasing the numbers of our voters list. The number was up. We had about 400 people more in the 2018 election than the 2014 election, but there was a total of 26 less people who voted. So the percentage was down, but the numbers were up a little bit. I attended 2 summers worth of AGMs, which I'm sure you all know are hosted on Saturdays and long weekends. Just remember that. We were constantly putting things on our website, our social medias. I was sending emails out to residents who had signed up to be on my list. I want to say there was approximately 600 people on this list, sending them updates once every 2 weeks with information as we learned it about the method of voting, how to get on the list, how to add yourself to the list. We had it so people could add themselves via our website. Some people attempted to do that. We had to open up communication with them for them to submit the correct information we needed, because you needed photo ID, proof of citizenship, and proof of ownership or tenancy in order to be added. The library stayed open additional hours during the time the polls were open. We put a election sign bylaw in place for the first time. There's a lot of things that we tried for the first time this year that staff now have a couple of years to review to see if anything needs to be changed for the 2022 election. Yeah, that's pretty much the highlight. It all worked out.
Questions, comments? Paul?
No, I just want to thank all the hard work that Jessica did on that. I know we passed a few resolutions and so on with the sign bylaw, which was probably not completely complied with, but there was an effort to do that, and I think the electronic voting was great. I know there's some concern from some people that we need to go back to the paper copy, but maybe we can do a combination of both. But I think it ran very, very smoothly until the last hours or so before the election, but I think overall it was successful, and I think a lot of that to do with Jessica and her work with her staff, so I want to thank them personally that they did a great job.
You're here.
Thank you very much. That's 2 rounds of applauses in one day. I don't think I need any more. I won't be able to get out the door.
The head's expanding.
It's this big.
Councillor Cooper.
I just would like to echo the comments from Councillor Bianco. I thought Jessica did do a fabulous job, and I'm going to clap again, just in case she decides to leave. There you go.
There you go. Whoa, it's getting...
I'm a little blushy.
Full head.
I don't think I've ever seen you go red.
I thought you said you remembered when I started 10 years ago.
That's
That's all I did was go red.
Okay. Anyways, Jessica and staff did a fantastic job. I can imagine what it was like over here when their computer internet crashed. That was probably major panic. I know one of our boys was trying to log on at the last minute and got kicked off twice. And then I had a look at it and sent Jessica a text or an email, I can't remember which. But anyways, that's when we found out that 51 municipalities were having the same problem because the company hadn't confirmed their bandwidth. And anyways, I'm sure the clerks, when they have their wrap-up meeting, they will be discussing this. I've seen a post from the Huntsville mayor. This is the second time they've used the electronic method. They had problems last time, and he's fed up this time, so we'll see where that one goes. I also did hear from people, so that Jessica can take this to her clerk's meeting, and Paul mentioned it also. There are people that absolutely refuse to use computers or anything electronic, and they were very much put out that there was not a paper method of doing it. So there's got to be a way of combining it so it's not confusing for people, so something to look at for 2022. But thanks again, Jessica. You did do a fantastic job.
Thank you very much.
And so you're going to be around in 4 years to do it again, right?
I don't know. Yes, I will.
Good girl. Okay, so I do have a resolution here, and we can entertain any other questions. Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Kay. Be it resolved that Council receives Clerk's Report 2018-36 regarding the 2018 municipal election as information only. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So our next item is our clerk again, routine disclosure policy, minor revision.
You don't have to clap for this one, it's okay. So this report started out as an information-only report regarding the amount of freedom of information requests that this office receives. But after asking area municipalities what their numbers were, and they were significantly lower than ours, we decided to take it into a revised routine disclosure policy, because if the municipality has a very clear routine disclosure policy, it's unlikely that any request escalates up to a freedom of information request. So I have attached the revised policy in your agenda. So the reason that we are going about it this way, mainly because the freedom of information takes a lot of time from clerk staff, and when you send in a request, you pay a $5 administration fee for the request. Then it's quite a process getting all the information from the different staff members, and that is cost recovery of $7.50 per 15 minutes of work reviewing the records. And if we print any off, it's 20 cents per page. And I'd say the average amount we collect is about $20 for freedom of information requests, which is definitely not cost recovery basis. The most common items that are requested are building permits from neighbors, and the routine disclosure policies I reviewed from other municipalities release this information without going through an FOI request, just with personal information redacted. And if they want copies of the plans, instead of me charging 20 cents per page, they would then be charged $10 per page being a large copy, or just 50 or 75 cents per page if it's a 8.5 by 11 based on our fees and charges bylaw. So again, the policy is attached for your review.
Okay, questions, comments? Resolutions moved by Councillor Rianco, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved that Council adopts the revised routine disclosure policy AD-001-2016. Anything further? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Okay, for our next item, Kathy has declared a pecuniary. We're going to need to break these out because I see I have one for Gibson Lake. Someone else might have one for 6 Mile, and someone else might have one for Cognizant. Don't you just hate that?
I do.
Thanks to a certain judge. So we need 4 separate resolutions? Or how do we do that?
Yeah, just give me a second here.
Because I'd like to vote for the ones that I don't have a pecuniary with.
If I may, it's my understanding that this type of funding, which is essentially made available to all our communities, that if an association sends in a request to get that support, that it isn't a pecuniary interest, and I have not recused myself in the past based on any of the interpretations I've read around pecuniary interest, because of it falls under the category of being made available to everyone. So if you want to separate them out, you're welcome to it. I'm not recusing myself from any of these because I don't believe it's a really definitive pecuniary interest. There's no personal benefit I would have, and I don't know that any of you would either, because you're really basically supporting recreation programs. It's a bit like the recreation programs that we make available to our permanent residents. So I don't see it myself. Thank you.
Councillor Riengo?
Well, you may not have a pecuniary interest, but I'm sure somebody may think you might have an indirect pecuniary interest on this approval, since if you pay fees to belong to your organization. For the first time in 33 years, I have not paid my fee for 6 Mile Lake. And I'm upset about that because I've supported them for 32 years. So I did not pay my fee this year, and therefore I'm not a member of the 6 Mile Lake Cottage Association and do not receive, I actually do receive some of the literature. They made an exemption for me, but I think as a result of the last legal cases, I think we got to be very, very careful that there are individuals out there that are looking at us and they might think this is an indirect pecuniary interest, and I'm not going to go there anymore. My family's had enough of this shit.
Now, the applicant for that lawsuit sitting right in the back of the room here having a good laugh at us. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
You know, $166,000 worth of wasted money. But,
If I may, Mayor Braid, I wonder if it wouldn't be helpful for us on this particular subject to seek some guidance from a municipal expert on, there are a few people out there that do provide, you know, have written books about this and so forth, that could provide guidance, and I've researched this pretty carefully, and I believe that nobody is in the position, none of the councillors are in the position of actually having a direct or indirect pecuniary interest, or a conflict of interest for that matter. Since these programs are available to all people in the entire township, be they from that area or not, and that's the clarification I've been given. So I'm just suggesting, rather than, you know, feeling upset about this and not belonging to associations, it wouldn't hurt to get some clarification. I will leave that to you, Councillor.
Yeah, you go ahead. I'm not wasting my time. I'm just going to declare. The judge was pretty clear, in my opinion. Took away a benefit that we had many years ago. I don't agree with the judge. I agree with your summation, but I ain't taking the chance.
Yep.
I've had enough of this also. Good for you. May be interesting to see what some of this other stuff that was pumped out during the election ends up getting to. Right, Mr. Flowers? How are you today?
We're doing fine.
People have spoken. Thank you. Yeah, right. Here we go. Thank you.
So we can deal with the Honey Harbor one first, so Kathy can come back.
Okay. So a move by Councillor Rienko, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved that council distribute $1,000 to the Honey Harbor Association from the Recreation Grant Fund. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. So I'm going to do the Cognasheen one now. And the resolution is moved by Councillor Cooper and seconded by Councillor Rienko. Be it resolved that council distribute $1,000 to the Cognasheen Cottagers Association from the Recreation Grant Fund. Questions or comments? Councillor Rienko?
I'm just curious, I guess it's to Brad, I guess who prepared the report. Did the Cottagers actually ask for $5,000? Or was that just what the program costs?
Through the mayor, that's what their deficit is?
Okay, so that's what
So-
the program costs?
Right, that's.
So they didn't ask for $5,000?
No, they were all respectful in what they requested,
Good.
but that's.
Okay, I was just worried about that, 'cause
Yeah.
that's the total amount.
Okay, anything further? Call a vote. All those in favor? Carries unanimously. We'll do 6 Mile next. I need a seconder. So moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Kay. Be it resolved that council distribute $500 to the 6 Mile Lake Cottage Association from the Recreation Grant Fund. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Kathy, would you be so kind as to take the chair for the next one? Foot's gone to sleep.
Better than my leg, that's for sure. I'll just read that.
Mhm.
Please sit down. Do we have to sit down? No. Okay. And the next one is to distribute $500 to Gibson Lake Cottage Association from the Recreation Grant. Moved by Paul and seconded by, I don't know who that is. Peter Cooper. Any comments, questions? So, there we go. All in favor? And that's you. Oh, I guess I'll do it too. Okay.
Just sign it.
No. It's nicer than what I have.
Mayor Brady, quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Just a point of order, or just for my own understanding, how would we have had quorum on any of those votes?
If you declare a pecuniary, we can go down to 2 councillors
Okay, so that's how.
by the municipal act.
Thank you.
Next item is for MacTier. Moved by Councillor Wianco, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved that council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw authorizing the execution of a subdivision agreement for the Middleton subdivision in MacTier, and that's S 2005-06.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is being brought forward as after review by our planners, as well as our engineering consultants. They've recommended that it can now get to the point to enter into an agreement. A draft agreement has been prepared by our solicitor and reviewed by all. So at this point, this would give staff in the township authorization to enter into the agreement. The agreement can't be signed until we have several things in place. From my standpoint, most important is the securities. They are identified in the agreement and as well as in the draft plan conditions.
And Nick, there were some letters came in regards to concerns, but from what I remember, all these concerns of phosphate management and tree cutting and all this sort of thing had been dealt with earlier. I believe the pathway down to the lake has to be a meandering path instead of a straight line cut. And there was, and this has been going on since 2005, all these conditions. So are they all in the subdivision agreement?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. So as part of the subdivision agreement, there are conditions and clauses that implement the environmental reports that were required. And you're right, there are a very high degree number of environmental aspects of that plan that have to be incorporated within the subdivision agreement. So that's done by implementing the environmental reports.
Okay, so is there anything that we need to be concerned about at this point?
I don't believe so.
So I'll open it up to council for questions, comments. Councillor Wianco.
Thank you. So I'm not quite sure the process is going to follow here. You're going to come back with a site plan agreement. In that site plan agreement, will we have all the conditions listed and so on that we will be approving at council?
Yes, so you'll see a copy of the subdivision agreement that'll have all the clauses within it.
Now, the issue there, and I think with this Middleton subdivision, that's going to be quite a lengthy list. And I'm wondering, does council and the public receive it on the Wednesday before council? Otherwise, it's only like 3 or 4 days for council to digest it and the public to comment on it. Is that the only length of time that we have to review this document?
Yeah, it'll be the standard process that we follow, and keep in mind this is not a public process when you're approving a subdivision agreement.
Yeah, but I think the public is watching this very carefully. So I think in this particular issue, and again, I don't know how long that document is, it may take more than people may feel they need more than a few days to review it. So I would hate to see it come back in December or January and get deferred, so we can have a more lengthy review of it. So I'm just wondering if that site plan agreement can be made available to the public and council before the Wednesday and so on, so people have a set amount of time to review it. Because I know it's going to come back if you don't give them enough time. And I think with the new council, they're going to be they're going to be very cautious on this whole thing. So I'm just wondering if it's a timing issue here and how we can handle this review.
I don't really see another alternative available other than council deferring the application or deferring the subdivision agreement for more review time. I don't see how we would follow a different process, but maybe the clerk can think of something. But I think we put it in our agenda package as usual, and we publish the agenda on the Wednesday before the meeting, and that gives, I guess, 5 days to review it. And if additional time is required, then council can defer it.
Okay, so I'll save my comments then until that time, and if you get some letters in saying they wish to defer, then probably I'll reconsider that. Okay.
Councillor Cooper?
Yeah, this is a pretty contentious issue, and it has been around a long time, and I guess because it is contentious, and my concern is moving this piece of business forward at this time, the last meeting of a 4-year term, I find problematic and can't support. I think we should punt it, defer it to the new council to examine this and live with this, as opposed to moving this forward at all today. So I can't support it.
So Nick, what are the downfalls to not moving this forward?
I think the major downfall is that the developer has been working with us for quite some time to develop this subdivision agreement. Having said that, a delay of a month or two probably won't be a major impact, but developer will have some concerns, in my opinion. And I don't know if Brad wants to add to that, but I think it'll be the developer will say, why are we deferring this? And really, it's just an approval to bring a bylaw forward in the future.
No, I support moving this forward. We're not approving anything today. We're just saying go ahead and prepare your site plan agreement, and that's got to even happen next month or this month. It's going to happen. So I would suggest we move ahead and execute the subdivision agreement so we can all see it, and then at that point, there may be some delays if people need more time to review it or they want to add to it or comment on it. But I want to see this thing as soon as possible. And I don't think waiting for the new council is going to make any difference, because everybody wants to see the site plan agreement.
Councillor Cooper?
I'd like to have a recorded vote on this, please.
Okay. Councillor Kay, any comments? Or?
I don't see any problem in moving forward with it. It's still got to come back for review, and that's the new council. And if they want to review the whole thing that's happened since 2005, that's up to them.
Any further comments? We had a request of a recorded vote.
Can you repeat
Yeah, I
the
did.
motion again?
Oh, I can read it again, or you can read it.
Be it resolved that council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw authorizing the execution of a subdivision agreement for the Middleton subdivision in MacTier, file S 2005-06. Councillor Cooper.
No.
Councillor Kay.
Yes.
Councillor Ryanko.
Yes.
Mayor Braid.
Yes.
Carried.
Okay. Okay, now we get into my laundry list of stuff. So moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Wianco. Whereas in June 2015, citizens from Oak Bay made a request for a hard surface beside Road 5 from Oak Bay to connect to the existing sidewalk at exit 156. And whereas district staff have been asked to come up with the best method of proceeding with this request, as the surface would enter Ministry of Transportation lands where it would pass under Highway 400, and whereas to date no response from district staff has been received, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Georgian Bay requests district for direction on how to proceed. I'm basically turning this over to the new council, but I can tell you you've seen the list of things that I've been working on. I've had meetings with district staff, driven up there on separate occasions, not just after a council meeting or a committee meeting, and tried to move some of these things along, but they just seem to be stalled, a lot of them. It all appears to be one department, because pretty much everything that we sent up for other departments has been looked after. I couldn't find any outstanding resolutions other than ones that had just been passed recently, and I believe those are on the staff list, that just so you can track what's going on. I'm going to suggest to the new council that somehow either the mayor or staff, it's really more a staff job, is keep track of any resolutions. I created a binder, and I ended up going through 4 years worth of resolutions in Jessica's binders to make sure I hadn't missed anything, and I actually had missed 1 or 2 of them. So I added them to my list of things to do, but pretty disappointing that we can't move some of these things along. I mean, this going under the highway, I know Huntsville did it with a walking path under Highway 11 at one of their bridges. So the method is there. I don't know what it is. Staff knows what it is. But we need to move forward with this particular ask. So, any questions or comments on that resolution? Call the question then. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. So that's one. The next item that I've been working on with them is the ambulance. I'll read the resolution. It's moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Wianco. Whereas ambulance service in the Township of Georgian Bay is an important need, and whereas the District of Muskoka has plans to improve the service in the northern part of our township, be it resolved the Council asks the new Council to continue the momentum of the proposed improved service. And in your package, there's a report that was done some time ago, and the recommendation in there is to move the MacTier station from its current location to somewheres out on Highway 400 area. Some citizens, probably everybody knows them, but I won't mention any names. We met with the paramedic chief and Michael Dubin. I was there also. That was back in the spring, and we discussed a number of locations. They were talking down around Road 38, which is the Bala Go Home Lake Road and 400. Suggested that they need to work with the Wata, because that's all Wata land down there. I said there are spots there. There are spots at the Cranberry Marsh exit, which are easy on and off. There's also hydro right there. There's open spaces for ambulance spot. And I said my preferred spot, even though it's further away from my own home, would be at 12 Mile Bay Road, where the Woodsman Hotel used to be. There's paved roads right there, there's hydro right there, it's easy on and off, and it's also close to Moose Deer Point, and within a few minutes of MacTier. Where the issue has come from is all the activity appears to be over on Highway 11 for the need for an ambulance. And so the Bracebridge ambulance, all of a sudden it's busy and can't cover Bracebridge. So then they take the Port Carling ambulance and send it over to Bracebridge. That leaves that area without an ambulance. So then they take MacTier ambulance and send it over to Port Carling. So that leaves MacTier, all the 400 corridor to halfway down in our township, uncovered, basically, because it takes 12-15 minutes to come from Port Carling just out to the 400 highway or into MacTier. And those are critical minutes sometimes. We are covered from the south through ambulance out of Coldwater, and usually on weekends. I've seen it sitting at the Ball Diamond at Wabashing waiting for a call, so we're covered fairly well that way. So anyways, that's what we're working on. I've notified the citizens that met with me that I'm happy to sit with them again and try and move this thing along. You know, after I'm finished here, and they were quite happy to hear that. So between all of us, we've got the knowledge at least. So that's the history kind of in a nutshell. So Councillor Cooper.
Just so that I can sort of get a picture, I'm glad you talked about the station to the south in Coldwater. What do we have to the north? Is there one at?
There's one right in MacTier, right across from the school.
I'm aware of that one, but if that moved, let's just say it's nowhere right now. What is the next one north on the 400? Is it Perry Sound?
Tony?
Through you, Your Worship, you're going to have paramedics coming out of Perry Sound, which we experience quite often now, and Port Carling.
Okay, so just for that, the Perry Sound ambulance, though, in terms of access, is the location of their station, is it right on the 400 so that they have quick access, or is it well into the community?
I think it's right near the new hospital.
The only paramedic station that I know of in Perry Sound, in the town of Perry Sound, not the district, is the one that's right at the hospital.
So it's back from the 400 some distance.
5 minutes.
Yeah, it's 5 minutes from the 400 and half an hour down the highway to
MacTier.
MacTier.
On the highway fairly quickly, but it's a fair run to go from Perry Sound down to MacTier.
It's like 20 minutes or 30?
It's half an hour.
30 minutes?
Pretty close to half an hour.
So MacTier, but MacTier, if it was balanced properly, could call on Port Carling.
If the ambulance is there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're short of ambulances, basically.
Mm.
And I believe they're going to get one of these small SUVs, but that's more to back up over in Lake of Bays, because they have nothing.
Right.
So,
Do we draw on Midland or as well, or?
So what would end up happening, just to give you a quick explanation, if a medical call comes in for, I'll say Port Severn, the call would go out to Muskoka paramedics and Simcoe County paramedics, and they'll, between the two CACs, which is run by the provincial government, they'll decide which is the closest ambulance.
Right, okay.
And if it's a life-threatening call, if it's somebody with a transport or something to that person could wait for hours.
Right.
For a paramedic out of Muskoka to come. But if it's a life-threatening call, the closest ambulance will go, and sometimes it's 40 minutes because they're coming out of Aurelia, Midland, whatever.
Thank you, just trying to get an understanding of, so maybe Muskoka Road, is that 38, the one that goes over to Bell?
Yeah.
Maybe makes sense, I don't know.
There needs to be a balancing, because the one
Yeah.
in Port Carly and Mathieu are very close together.
Yeah,
And
doesn't
there
make
needs to
sense.
be a balance, needs to be a shift in
There's
distance.
still 12 to
between-
15 minutes drive
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah, so there needs to be a shift in distance, assuming we have the funds to build a brand-new facility. If they do have the money to build a brand-new facility, then it should maybe not necessarily be in Mactier, but maybe right on the highway someplace. And again, you're only, even if it's at 38, you're 10 minutes to Mactier, which is not a big deal. But, and so is Bracebridge too. But what's happening is Bracebridge is disappearing all the time. That's why Port Carly is disappearing all the time. So we need to have something in the township. In the middle of the township would be great.
So I did suggest to our paramedic chief and district staff that they consult with Moose Deer and Wata, because they have a whole lot more pull for money for this sort of thing than we might. So work in progress.
Thank you. And I guess maybe we ask Tony for his opinion. You know, are you on the same wavelength, or you have a different opinion?
I have a lot of questions that I would be asking before I could comment.
Perhaps you should be at the next meeting I have. I'll suggest that. Anything else? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. That report is actually well worth reading if you're having trouble sleeping one night. Okay, so do we have?
There's one resolution for all outstanding resolutions.
Oh, okay, so this covers the 5H?
Yeah, it covers the outstanding resolutions that you sent me, and it also covers all the outstanding action items.
Okay. So on page 123, and on for about 6 pages, are copies of resolutions that we have passed here. Well, maybe I'll just go through each one of them. The first one on 123 is the bike lanes on District Road 33, or South Gibson Lake Road. And this road was slated for resurfacing, I think as far back as 2013, and it's been pushed out year after year. I think the latest budget, it says 2019 on it. But in the interim, because it was being pushed out, we passed a resolution in October 2015 asking for bike lane. I was shown a design drawing for this road, and I just went absolutely ballistic on what they had spent their money on. They went with a design for 80-kilometer-an-hour road, which meant cutting through the pristine bush at corners and lopping big hills off and all that. So anyways, I ended up with a a meeting on the road with the proper staff, and I went through some of the bad curves, hills, and whatnot that need fixing, but not total rejuvenation. We also passed a resolution a while back which did get looked after, and that was reduce the speed limit from 60 kilometers an hour to 50. And that is working quite well. It's actually slowed people down on the road for the most part. There's still that Friday night where people just have to get to their cottage 30 seconds sooner. So they are racing in and out, but they get quite a surprise when they hit those bad corners and there's a dump truck coming around the corner riding the yellow line. So anyways, that's one where we would like widened shoulders so that people can get off the traveled surface. And because they're biking, they're walking their dogs, that sort of thing, and there's no place for them to go other than in the poison ivy or the ditch if two vehicles are coming along in opposite directions and they have to get out of the way. The next item we just passed. So we haven't had a response from them yet, but this is reducing the speed limit in Honey Harbor from the Lily Pond Road right out past the school and so on to the end of the district road. And at the Delawana, we have already lowered the township road speed limit to 40. So it would be 40 from Lily Pond Road all the way out at that point. So hopefully they address that one. The next one was one this year where we've asked for more guardrail along Whites Falls Road. I was out there a week or so ago. Nothing has happened. No rocks, no guard, no nothing. So hopefully they get to that before the summer. And also, we asked them to increase their fines from $10 to $50 to coincide with our fines. A $10 fine is more incentive to stay parked there than anything. The next one we passed this year, I guess we are getting information now on the cannabis and all that. It's slowly filtering in from the province and through district and so on. So I'm not too terribly concerned about that one, but if somebody comes to you looking to open up a cannabis store in town here, you may want to have some criteria or bylaws in place, that sort of thing, or offer free samples. The cost study, which was a cow resolution that went to council and was subsequently passed. We did have that discussion at the Corporate and Emergency Services. By the end of the discussion, I had said, okay, fine, let's wait and see if you can bring forward a method of tracking in the future what all the costs are to the individual municipalities, but I was not getting any support from my fellow mayors to spend $150,000 or whatever it was in the estimate to backtrack, as they don't have that cataloged in their long list of what they spend money on. So that is a move forward type of thing. So you may want to watch for that in the budget when that comes up. There's another one from 2015, which they addressed the bag limit They did not reduce the bag limit to 2, as they were asking. But I've been after Public Works to develop an education program, especially at our compounds, our remote bins at the marinas, where there's summer staff there to try and educate the people what to put what in where and what is not allowed to go in the bins, that they need to take it to the transfer site. So that's hopefully they're going to put some money in the budget to hire some extra summer staff. The next one was June 2016. I think this was one Kathy brought forward, was to give us a much better surface and a safer surface from Honey Harbor out to South Bay Road. Apparently they were in and did some grading and did some weeding, but I don't think anybody noticed any difference. I don't know whether our staff did that. Brad, do you know, were we commissioned to do that, or?
The mayor, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so this is what they said in a report that I have, but that needs to be followed up. There's no share of the road signs, and to the best of my knowledge, you still can't ride a bicycle along the shoulder without ending up in deep sand or whatever. So, and you would know, did they get rid of the poison ivy along there? Or?
No, and they also were supposed to delineate the side of the road from the road with white lines.
Okay. Oh yeah, it says a white line separating the pavement from the gravel. So that was never done. So that's one that needs to be followed up. And of course, there's the list from 5H, which, page 59, thank you. So I had asked about the seaplane letter a while ago, and staff have resent that. No response from either of those. I haven't heard anything more. Have you, Lori? Nothing yet? So there's a bunch of things from 2018. This is a good list for the new council to have. And there's a bunch of capital projects, either ongoing, complete, or maybe deferring. A lot of these things are in-house, not necessarily district. I have to ask Brad, what the heck are they doing on High Street up in MacTier? That's been closed so long now. And it looks like they're digging to China.
That answer wasn't good enough. The storm sewer project is going much longer than expected. There are utilities located where they weren't expected, which is resulting in them needing to be relocated. But to relocate them, it requires blasting and things longer than.
So were these things in the ground?
Through the mayor, yes, they were. It's just the drawings, the as-built drawings we had did not appear to be correct.
Wonderful. So is this going to add dollars again to this project, or?
Through the mayor, at this point, it appears we can capture it all in the contingency.
Okay.
At this
Fingers
point.
crossed. Are they expecting to be done for the winter?
They are expecting to tie up the work that they've completed to date, get an asphalt surface on for our maintenance, and then restart in the spring. That has not been finalized, but that's the direction I think we're going.
So High Street would be open again?
Yes.
And what about the drainage?
Drainage will, southeast of High Street, it will be improved, and to the west, it will be the same as it's always been.
Okay, so I'll open it up to council if you've got any questions on this, since you...
You know, I just think that our staff needs to keep a complete list of all the district requests and what action's been taken. I know lots, even in this list here from, that's prepared by staff, some of the stuff goes back to April and May and June and so on. I think the district's had a long enough time to respond to some of these things, so I think we need to keep their feet to the iron, or whatever it is, and make sure that we get a response to all these issues through the new council. So I think the new mayor and the new council needs to get up to the district and find out what the hell's going on, and get a lot of these actions, at least find out what action's being taken, and we can track it. But I think we need to track it all. So one list, and we can keep track of it on a monthly basis.
So if you do look at the correspondence on the district council agenda, it says correspondence received from Township of Georgian Bay and referred to, and it lists the people, and then you never hear anything.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so I guess, you know, it needs to be brought up with them, and I'll be talking to John once again to say they need to develop some sort of a system where they send us a letter, we've received your, and we will respond by such and such a date, or something along those lines, so that we can keep it moving along. So I do have a resolution here moved by Councillor Wianco, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved that council directs staff to follow up with the District of Muskoka on the outstanding resolutions previously sent to them for action. Okay? Anything else? Call the question. All those in favor? Carries. District waste.
There's no resolution.
There's no resolution. That's from 5C. Page is that? Oh no, that's
44?
5F. Okay, so this is the large item events. This is one you wanted pulled?
Just because there are a lot of not a lot, there are recommendations in it, and since it's fresh in everyone's mind, and last year things kind of got booked up before anybody made up their mind as to what should be done, that maybe these recommendations should be taken into consideration now, the ones that affect where and when there are going to be scheduled large pickups. Because they're recommending, basically what they're doing, last year there was 2 of them in Honey Harbor, they're recommending getting rid of 1, which makes sense because the hazardous waste didn't bring anybody in as far as large dumping, because it was all done at the first one. Present Island every 3 years, we knew about that. Bone Island was Saturday and Sunday. They're recommending discontinuing the Sunday because they got, you know, between the 2 days, they only got 5.5 tons dropped off. And then everything else to be every 3 years. So Present Island every 3rd year, Bone Island, Bone Island every 3rd year, and Go Home River every 3rd year. Thereby bringing down the total cost of the township from $68,000 down to $28,000.
Good plan.
So, I don't know, it can get changed if the need comes up, but these are pretty basic right now. The numbers are there, the numbers speak for themselves.
Okay, oh yeah, the last paragraph. Okay, so that, I was gonna go to you, the Cognition event was 2 days this year, but the second day was not, okay, so you're okay with that?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I think it's being streamlined, and I think that's good. I still fail to understand, given the lack of service we get from the district over here, why we would pay anything. But that's, I guess, an argument for another day.
Well, it can enlighten you. We pay for the service we get, okay, unlike some of the other stuff, where it's just assessment-based.
Right.
So if we want garbage pickup on a certain day, we pay for that.
Right.
It's not assessed to Bracebridge or anything like that, okay? That's something we did a few years back.
I understand that. All I'm just saying is that, in general, we pay a lot of money over there and get not much in return. So I am saying that in our particular case, when it comes to something like 28,000 or 60,000 or whatever the number is, I don't think we should be paying a penny.
Somebody has to pay for it.
Yeah.
You can ask Bracebridge to pay for it next
The
time.
district should pay for it, just as we support their police services.
Yeah, the police services are billed on assessment basis,
I know.
and the garbage is user pay for all 6 municipalities. That's the difference, okay?
Yeah.
So,
We're not getting.
Councillor Wianco and I, we still have the lash marks on our back from the last go-around, where we reduced the number of compounds and went door to door, and of course it crops up every once in a while. They want their bin sites back, but they're the most expensive items. There's like 23, thank you, 23 or so marina stewarded sites, okay, which are basically for all the offshore people, and they're quite expensive. They're actually trying to nail down what that exact cost is for us for next term. So, anyways, all the other hazardous days and waste collection days, you're okay with out on the bay?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And what the plan is, I've already made my comment about the way, what we pay for.
I'll make a comment too. The inland community who pays, well, who half it, we're paying half of that, we're not getting any benefits from that. Keep that in mind.
But you
We're
can
paying
take
half
your
of that.
garbage to it.
We're paying half of that 68,000 for your pickup on the bay, and we're not complaining.
Well, good, that's nice. We finally get some service. Not like you do. There we go.
Kathy, you're okay with the recommendations in here?
Yeah.
All of them? Okay. Yeah, I didn't see anything that was out of line, but the new council, if they want some different stuff, ask early.
Yeah.
So I got a resolution here moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Wianco. Be it resolved that council accepts the recommendations outlined in the memo from Fred Yon dated October 22nd, 2018 regarding the 2018 large item events report and initiate them in 2019. Anything else? Call the question. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. I think we're, all right, we got one more item here.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Wianco. Be it resolved that Council adopts bylaw 2018-109, being a remuneration bylaw for non-union staff. And is this yours, Jane? 130.
Yes?
Okay. And we've already talked about this, so this is the bylaw now.
That's correct.
Okay. Does council have any questions? No? You're off the hook. Call the question. All those in favor? And it carries. Thank you. Okay, so that's it, folks, except for closed session. So I suggest we break for lunch, and is there anything coming out of closed session for our public members? Lori? Not anticipated?
I don't anticipate it.
No,
We do have one item after closed session, at 1 o'clock.
I do. Okay. So apparently something's happening at 1 o'clock that the public can watch. We'll see you at 1.
lots of ups and downs over the last 4 years, but we had some pretty cool moments too, and a lot of fun. So thank you for your service, and let's eat cake.
Thank you very much.
I better read these.
Yeah. And then
So moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Wienko. Be it resolved that Council adopts bylaw 2018-118, being a bylaw confirming the proceedings of the November 12, 2018 council meeting. Questions, comments?
I want to make a comment. No, I've been on council for 11 years now. I guess I've been council with Larry for all that time. And I was on council with Kathy for 4 years. And no, I really enjoyed you two individuals. And I hope the best in your retirement. And if you need any advice or you want to make some comments at council, just give us a holler and hopefully we'll present your interests. So good luck and thanks for all the help.
You're very welcome. So it's been 18 years that I've been on council. I just saw that this weekend. I hadn't had time to read it, but it's 15 years straight, and it was 3 years, 97, December 97 to November of 2000. And the 3 years that I was off, Jim Bowden sat in my chair and found out what it was like. It took him 2 years to come to me and say, boy, this really is a job. But, and since then we've been good friends, because we learned to understand each other, me being the inland guy and him being the bay guy. But we still get together for this and that and converse once in a while. So he was a good counselor too. But for the most part, I've enjoyed council. A few rocky meetings here and there, and there's some very contentious issues out in the public, and they're very passionate. I've always prided myself in protecting all the people involved, those that are opposed to something and the people that actually own the property that are trying to do something with their property. So I've always had respect for their property rights, and I guess that's got me into a bit of trouble, but so be it. I'm looking forward to retirement. I'd already decided before I signed up that it didn't matter which way it went. My wife had already retired, and now I'm retired. And I'm looking forward to 11/59/59, November 30th, when I can hang up my jacket. I got 2 of these for sale, by the way. Anybody wants, because I won't be able to wear them again unless I put another crust on. But they're extra large tall. Al?
Do they come with a crest?
It'll come with a crest, yeah. Talk to me later. Anyways, such a pleasure working with staff here. We have very professional staff, even Jessica.
You're just saying that because you're leaving. I know, right? Every time.
No, she has been a godsend to this municipality. Hits it right on the mark, and I still can't believe how fast she types. I know I used to be in that business, the electronics business, and in First Canadian Place, and this goes back into the either late 60s or early 70s, they had a typing contest down in the concourse. And a gentleman on a Underwood manual beat everyone. even the IBM Selectric, which can type at about 180 words a minute, if you can get your fingers moving that fast. Anyways, it was quite interesting to watch him fly, and he never clashed any of the keys. He just went. But I think Jessica types faster than that.
I think I do too.
I think you do too. I'm pretty sure. So, anyways, thank you very much, everyone. And I know you're just itching to get at the cake, especially Peter, right? So, I've read the confirming bylaw. Does anybody need a reread? No? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That carries. And the final one, moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Wianco. Be it resolved, the council does now adjourn at 1:12 p.m. until December 3rd, 2018 at 10 a.m. or at the call of the chair. Have you got that, Peter?
Got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. So 10 a.m., not making them get here early?
It's their first day.
Okay,
Gotta ease them in.
okay. Questions, comments? All in favor? And that carries.
You don't have to pick up a pen and notebook for the rest of your life.
I managed to get through that.
Now you've got the cake.
Thanks, everyone. I've still got a district meeting to go to.
Yeah, yeah.
And then say a few words.
But now that you got time, you remember district council, remember district chair. You still have time,
No, thanks.
you still have time to file, don't you?
This job was hard enough.